Indian. I don't have to pick being Malaysian or Muslim. I can be all of those things. All of those things make up who I am. I don't have to feel like I'm in a box. I can be me, and I can be all of those things. It's important for me to be, if I lived here in Malaysia, being Malaysian is just as important as being Muslim, as being this, as being that. Like, all of those things make up our identity. And we were talking the other day, his brother here was there, but we were talking about how Islam, in my opinion, it's like a river, right? A river is pure, and it is clear, but when a river goes over different rocks, it reflects those colors, right? And so, Islam is not an Arab religion, but here in Malaysia, it should be a very Malaysian faith, right? It should be very Muslim and also very Malaysian, right? And when you go to America, Islam is very Muslim, or it's also very Islamic, but it's also very American. When you go to China, it's also very Chinese. And so as the river goes over all these different rocks, it should reflect those colors. And that was a beautiful thing about it, that no matter where you live, people make Islam work for them. And that, to me, was one of the things that I wanted to share with the stories, is that no matter where you go, people just make Islam work. No country, no culture has a monopoly on Islam. Islam is meant for all of mankind. It was meant to be appreciated by Muslims and non-Muslims. And so that was the beautiful thing about it. Anyways, I'll get back to tough jokes. Thanks for that lecture, sir. We didn't come for this. So what else can I talk about? So I grew up in America, like I said, and my family came from India about 30 or 40 years ago. And I guess the word you could use to describe my family is fresh off the boat. You guys have that word? Fresh off the boat, fobs. My parents are fobs. But when I say fresh off the boat, let's just say they never got off the boat. They just brought on land with them, like, India is coming with us. Let's go. India is here in America. But here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with being proud of your culture. There's nothing wrong with being proud of your heritage. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a beautiful thing. You should celebrate that. But here's the thing, you guys. They would tell me things that they said were a part of Islam, but it was actually a part of the culture and superstitions. Like, did anybody have any weird superstitions in their house growing up? Did you have any weird things in your house? Like, what did you have in your house? Like, what was something that your family would say?
You can't open an umbrella indoors.
What would happen if you opened an umbrella?
Ghost?
A ghost? Why? That's so interesting. I'm not making fun of it. That's so interesting. That a ghost would come up. Maybe some dust, but not a ghost. Anybody else have any like weird superstitions? What was yours?
If we touch the bottom of the room, that's bad luck for us. I mean, we forgot about that. That's
bad luck. What, that you have like dirt on your hands? Like,
I don't know.
I love that. What? Anybody else have a superstition?
Never leave the egg out in the open.
Why?
So they're afraid that we are afraid that there's some jinn will come in and eat that egg and then stay in the house.
Wow, they might have an exorcism.
Yes.
Oh, I'm professional. Anybody else have any
There's marriage.
Now that you're married, like you just like
The day before or something like that. Just toss it on the roof.
ghosts. Like, maybe that's how that happened. They actually open their umbrella and underwear. They're like, oh, I got bad luck. Anyways, in my house growing up, the superstition that we had, and I didn't know about this. I was 7 years old.
What?
Shaitan, if you're not, any non-Muslims here? Any non-Muslims here? Alright, so I'll explain Shaitan. So, Shaitan in Islam is... Shaitan! Right? So I don't know what Shaitan is. Where's the prayer rug? Oh man, they folded it, man! And so my mom used to scare me. She'd always be like, Aman, if you don't go to sleep. I have a name! I have a name! His name is Shaitan? What's his last name? Oh, I don't think he has a last name. He's kind of like Madonna. So the police, they hang up on me. They don't want anything to do with me. So I was like, okay, I gotta take matters in my own hands. And so the next day, I'm at my friend's house, Jonathan Dixon. I'm at Jonathan's house, and we're watching the movie Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters, the old school Ghostbusters was on TV. And you gotta remember that movie where all these good guys have to capture these monsters and ghosts, and I came up with a plan. So the next day, Jonathan spent the night at my house. And while everybody was sleeping upstairs, where's it? Check. Still. Do I need a mic? I don't need a mic.
No.
Alright, cool. So Jonathan came over to my house, and while everybody was sleeping upstairs, we snuck downstairs, and we took all the prayer rugs, and we rolled them across the floor. And so then, I hid behind a chair with a stick and a bat. Very, very sophisticated plan. So I'm sitting there, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. And after a while, nothing's happening. Nobody's coming. No shaitan. So I don't know what to do, and I have to use the bathroom. So I tell Jonathan, okay, Jonathan, take the stick, take the bag. You keep a lookout. You know what to do in case shaitan comes. Here you go. And so Jonathan takes the stick, and I go in the bathroom, and I finish up, and I'm washing my hands, and all of a sudden I hear, ah! Aman! I caught him! It was my dad. So there's my dad, just knocked out across the ground. I was like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Dad? You're shaitan? He thought that was funny. That's another true story. What else to talk about? So I worked a bunch of jobs before I started doing comedy. I used to work at a restaurant. Anybody used to work at a restaurant? Anybody else? Anybody worked at a restaurant before? You did? Where did you used to work? What kind of restaurant? What kind of food?
It was just a cafe.
Cafe. What about what you said you used to work at a restaurant? French food. Restaurant's a tough business, right? It's tough. You know, people don't realize how hard you have to work, things like that. Like, I used to work at an Indian restaurant. And when you work at an Indian restaurant, it's a little bit different going to an Indian restaurant than other restaurants. Like, you go to a Chinese restaurant, you walk in, you're like, wow, this is really, really nice. You walk into an Indian restaurant, and you're like, wow, this is really, really about to give me diarrhea. This is nice. Wow. So I had that job. And then after that, I went to college, and I became a journalist. I worked as a reporter at Newsweek, USA Today, and Reuters. So I worked at a bunch of news places. And that was fun for a while. And I still lived in Washington, D.C. I was a reporter over there. And people used to ask me, okay, you're Muslim, you live in Washington, D.C., you talk to all these politicians. What's it like for you? Did anybody give you problems because you were Muslim or anything like that? Did you have any problems? Thankfully, I never had any problems except this one time. I was at this event, and I was talking to this politician. Out of respect, I'm not going to mention his name, Jim McDermott, Democrat from Seattle, Washington. So I'm at this event, and I'm talking to this congressman, and the fact that I'm a Muslim comes up in the conversation. And I think he was a little drunk that night, because I'm talking to him, and I tell him I'm Muslim, and he goes, so you're Muslim, huh? You're Muslim, huh? Let me ask you something. Next time you get a telegram warning you about a terror attack, how about you let the rest of us know? So what kind of racist, hateful thing is that? Because, okay, fine, I'm a Muslim, but I'm also an American. And for this bigot, hateful idiot to think that I don't know how to use email, that's so offensive. So I had that job, and then got into comedy, and with comedy came all these opportunities. So I moved to New York City, I got an agent, and I got an opportunity to be on a couple TV shows, and I had an opportunity to audition for the TV show. You You guys get Law and Order?
Yeah.
You watch Law and Order SVU? You remember that show? So I got a chance to audition for that show, and the person that I had to audition for was the brother of a criminal from Afghanistan. Shocker! So that was my role. I had one line on the whole episode. When the criminal gets convicted, he walks out of the courthouse. The family's standing right there. And what I'm supposed to say is, "You disgraced your family!" And then slap. "You disgraced your family!" So that was my line. And so I did the audition. I go home, practice. "You disgraced the family!" And so I think I got it. I'm feeling good. And then they asked me to come back. I'm feeling good. I go through that audition. I nailed it. And then the next audition, felt good about that. I'm like, all right, I think I got this. And they're like, "We'll call you. We'll let you know." And then a few days goes by. Nothing happens. Don't hear anything. So I call my agent. I'm like, "Hey, what happened? Did I get the part? Did I get the part?" And so he's like, "I don't know. Call the studio." So I called the studio. And then I'm like, "Hey, it's Aman Ali. I was auditioning. You disgraced the family." And they're like, "Oh yeah, Mr. Ali. Namaste. Sorry. I hate to break this to you, but we decided to give the part to somebody else." I was like, and I was so sad, and I was so down. And I called my mom that night. I was like, "Mom, why am I even doing this? I had a great job as a journalist in Washington, D.C. I got up and left and moved to New York and followed this dumb dream that I had. This is a waste. I'm just going to go back to Washington, D.C. My mom's like, "No, Mom, this was your dream. You wanted to do this. You gave everything for this. You're going to keep giving everything. You're going to keep doing what you do. We love you. We support you. Do what you want." And then my mom said, "Hey, do you have some time off? Like, why don't you come back home, visit us, and I'll cook you your favorite meal." "Don't worry about that. We'll have other auditions. It's okay. We'll have other auditions." So I go home, visit my family. Brothers are all there. My mom and dad are there. We start talking. And my brother's like, "Man, don't worry about it. You'll have other auditions. They don't know what they missed. Don't worry about it." Then my grandmother walks in. My grandmother doesn't speak any English. So she walks in. She has a little walker. And she's like, "Mom, when am I going to see my little samosa on TV?" "Oh, so you guys didn't tell her that I didn't get the part? Like, you didn't tell her? Like, why didn't you tell her?" And so I had to break it to her. And I was like, we call her Nanima. And I was like, "Nanima, I didn't get the part. I'm not going to be on TV." She looks at me. And she's like, "On TV? You disgrace the I love to travel. Traveling is so much fun. And I love hanging out with different people and different cultures and things like that. One of the things that I got a chance to notice is no matter where we are in the world, no matter what culture you come from, we all have different ways of mixing up letters in English. For example, in India and Pakistan, we mix up our V's and our W's, right? Right? Some people are agreeing, some people are like, "I don't know what he's talking about." We mix up our V's and W's. I'll give you an example. So, my dad drives a lot for his job, and it's not safe to talk on the phone when you drive. And so I got my dad an iPhone. It has Siri and the whole system. So I programmed it for him, and I told my dad, "Hey, Dad, you can use voice activation on the phone, and then talk to the phone and do whatever." So he tries to get his voicemail, and he goes, "Voicemail!" And Siri doesn't recognize it. "I didn't voicemail, stupid! Voicemail!" And he gets mad, and he throws the phone. He's like, "Aman, take this away. Stupid thing is broken." So that was my dad's excuse for everything. It was never his fault. It was always, "Stupid thing is broken." So my dad's job, he used to be a manager of a donut store. And I'm glad he wasn't like a doctor. He was like a I'm glad he wasn't a doctor or a surgeon. Because I can only imagine he'd be at the hospital, like, coming out the operating room. Man, I am so sorry. We tried to repair your son's heart, but the stupid thing was broken. I'm so sorry. So I learned that Indians, Pakistani mix up the V's and the W's, but I learned recently that other cultures mix up things too. Like I went to Egypt recently, and I learned that Egyptians mix up their G's and their J's, right? So instead of the word jumping jack, they'll say gumping jack, right? It's awesome. So I'm in Egypt, I'm in Cairo, I'm doing some shows, and then after the show, I'm hanging out at this coffee shop. And I'm at this coffee shop, and these two Egyptian dudes behind me are talking politics. So I'm just sitting there on my computer, just checking my email, and they start talking politics, and they start talking about the Jews, but they kept saying the goose. So the whole time I thought they were talking about ducks. They're like, the bulls, they start flying around and dropping things on us. And the bulls, when they run down the street, they don't stop chasing us. And they kept talking about the goose. And I'm like, if you give them bagels, won't they just go away? And so I learned about that. But my absolutely favorite people that pronounce English are the British. I love English accents. Anybody else have English accents? English accents are awesome. I can't do an English accent. I'm not going to do one for you. Because I'm terrible at it. I just love it so much. But I always keep trying to do one. Like, I was in England recently. And I was like, alright, let me just see if I can fit it in. Oh, they're trying to be British. I'm British. Clearly this doesn't make me British. So I was like, let me just try to fit it with the locals. And so I was hanging out in London. And there's a neighborhood in London called Farringdon. And I was trying to find the train station. So I go up to this guy. I'm like, excuse me, sir. I'll ask you a question. Can you help me locate the Farringdon tube station? And the guy goes, yes, sir. Three blocks down the corner. I'm like, cheers, mate. And I start walking away. And as I'm walking, the guy goes, excuse me, sir. Now can I ask you a question? I'm like, what? What is it? And he looks at me and goes, are you an American trying to use a fake British accent? I'm like, oh, man! Hey! The best thing about traveling, though, is food. Right? I get a chance to not only meet incredible people, but the food. And the food here in Malaysia is so bloody good. It is just so good. Like, I love it. And everything here is amazing. Everything here is fantastic. And I just love, I've been eating a lot. And it's been a good time. And it's one of my favorite things to do. Like, I still remember, but to me, the best meal I ever had was in Tanzania. Anybody been to Tanzania? We know where it is, right? It's on Eastern Africa. Beautiful country, beautiful people. And so I'm there doing some shows. And anytime I travel, I try to have like a local person with me to travel because I want to better understand the community, the culture. I want to be respectful, things like that. I want to, hang out with people. So I do the show, and this man comes up to me after the show. And so my guide, he tells me this guy is the Grand Mufti of Tanzania. He's like the biggest Muslim scholar in all of Tanzania. So I was like, oh, cool. And I have this weird insecurity. Anytime I meet a scholar or an imam, I just feel like a bad Muslim. I don't know if you guys ever feel like that. I just feel like it's not their fault. It's my fault. I just feel like a terrible Muslim. Anytime I meet an imam or a scholar, it's just an insecurity that I have. Some of you guys are like, yeah, me too. I have that weird insecurity. And so he asks me, you enjoyed the show. He said, please, stay at my house. Stay at my house. My friend that I was with, he's like, it's a big honor. Like, you should stay with me. You should stay with me. Like, people would love to stay with you. I'm like, okay, cool. I'd rather hang out with someone than be by myself at the hotel. And so I'm at his house, and I wake up the next day, and I was like, hey, chef, yes. So So the next day, I wake up, and so I was like, Chef, so what's up? What are we doing today? And the chef was like, we are going to have a big feast in your honor. I was like, Chef, oh, that's so nice, but you don't have to do that. Like, just go to a restaurant and I can meet some people, let them talk. But no need for a feast. Like, it's ridiculous. What are you talking about? Like, no, I am preparing a feast in your honor. And he's like cooking on the stove, and he's like, no, I'm already preparing a feast for you. I'm like, oh, okay. Can I help? Can I do something? He goes, you want to help? I was like, yeah, sure, I want to help. He said, okay, you are in charge of the lamb. Can you cook lamb? And I was like, yeah, sure. I was like, I figure I'll just go on YouTube, find like a lamb recipe or something. I got this. I can't cook at all. I can't even make spaghetti. So I was just like, all right, let me just do that. And so I'm looking around in the refrigerator, looking for the meat. Pull open all these drawers, and I was like, Chef, where's the meat? I don't see any meat here. I'll never forget this. The chef goes into a closet. Pulls out a gun, a rifle, and he hands it to me. And he goes, I have a farm outside. Go get me a lamb. What? I'm freaking out at this point. And he looks at me. And again, I have this insecurity. And even more insecure because he has a gun. And so, he's like, what's the matter? I was like, huh? He's like, what? You don't hunt in America? I was like, what? He's like, hunting is a tradition of Prophet Muhammad. Him and his companion used to hunt. Why don't you hunt? I was like, oh, chef, I hunt. Yes, I hunt. I love hunting. Hunting is great. I've never held a gun in my life. And so I'm like, yeah, I hunt. And so he's like, go get me a lamb. Hurry. I need a lamb now. And so I was like, oh my gosh. What am I doing? And so I go outside. And I go in the backyard. And I see all these animals. And I'm like, this can't even be halal. This can't even not be permissible. But I'm like, I don't want to upset the chef. Like, he's got this gun. What other guns does he have? And so I just felt so bad and just so stressed out that I don't even know what to do. So there I am, with a rifle in one hand, trying to Google how to halal slaughter an animal on my phone. So I've been like looking up articles on how to do this. And I just felt so bad. And I saw this little baby lamb came up to me, started licking my face. I was like, oh, don't lick my face, please. And then I started licking my gun. I'm like, no, even worse. Don't look the other way. And so I felt so bad. Like, this cannot be acceptable in Islam. Islam is all about humane treatment of animals, and I can't do this. But at the same time, I also don't want to die. So I made a dua, I made a prayer to Allah. And I said, Allah, please forgive me if I am doing something wrong. Please have mercy on this animal. And please accept this sacrifice that I'm about to make. Please forgive me if I am doing something terribly wrong. And so, pull out the gun. I get the rifle. And I put the barrel of the gun on the lamb's neck. And look through the sight, and I'm getting ready to pull the trigger. And as I'm getting ready to pull the trigger, I just hear some laughing, like, It was the chef. He starts laughing at me. I'm like, what's so funny? He's like, oh my gosh, you sicko. You're such a sicko. I do this prank. Anytime somebody stays at my house, I give them a gun to go hunt an animal. But oh man, you were actually about to do it. You are so savage. Come on, man, let's get out of here. It's not even my farm. So we just went to a Middle Eastern restaurant down the street, and it was like the best meal I ever had. But I want to have some time to talk to you guys, but I'll end on this story. One of the reasons, I always talk about my family is because it was important to celebrate who they are. Because I'm at that point in my life, I just turned 25, and people are like, wow, Aman, you don't look 25. That's because I'm lying and I'm actually 33. So I'm at that point where things are going well with my career and I'm trying to settle down and trying to find the right person to get married. things like that. But I mean, it's been hard. It's been hard. And so I like to get a lot of wisdom from married couples. Like, are you married? How long have you been married? You can't even remember. You just have to be out of the house. You're like, bro, stop.
37 years.
37 years? That is awesome. Because in Islam and in the Muslim community, we need to celebrate love. Love is such a beautiful thing. And wait, is your wife here? That's why it's 37 years of marriage. Yeah! That's how it works. No, we gotta celebrate love. Like, my parents have been married for more than 46 years. I need you guys to clap for that. We gotta celebrate that. Yeah. We gotta celebrate that because what's beautiful is after 46 years of marriage, they still say all these cute, romantic things to each other in the car, like, where the hell did you learn how to drive? And so, for the 45th anniversary, my brothers and I, we did a surprise for my family. We did a surprise wedding anniversary. We had them go through a wedding again to renew their vows. It was a beautiful thing. So we had a cake and we cut it. And I started talking to my mom after. I asked her this question. I said, Mom, you've been married to Dad for more than 45 years. Wow, Mom. That is so beautiful. But, Mom, I gotta ask you a question. After 45 years of marriage, did you ever think about divorcing Dad and leaving him? And I'll never forget her answer. She goes, divorce? Never. Murder? Every single day. Every single day. So I know part of this was a workshop. I got carried away with telling some jokes. I can tell you how I got started. So I was in school. Like I said, I studied to be a reporter. And I was a fan of the comedy as a kid, but I never had any interest in doing it as a career. I was always like, I'm going to be a reporter, I'm going to be a writer. But in college, my friend was organizing this Islamic conference. And at the last minute, they had some entertainment. And at the last minute, the music act that they booked canceled. So my friend was like, hey man, I need some help. The artist that we booked to perform can't come anymore. Can you just get up there and like tell some jokes? And I was like, alright, sure, I can do this. They're gonna call me before my life, anything like that. But I was always president of clubs at university, so I'm used to like talking to people, to welcome them. So I was like, alright, let me just give it a try. He wants me to do like 10, 15 minutes. I can, just goof off for like 10 minutes. So I write some jokes and go to the conference. So I'm at the conference, and I'm sitting in all these Islamic lectures. And as I'm in these lectures, there's this like elderly Pakistani like uncle. He's like in his late 60s, and he's just sitting there. His arms are folded. He's just mad for like no reason at all. And I'm like, why is this guy so mad? Why is he so angry? And I'm like genuinely like worried. And I'm asking people, like, anybody know him? What's his story? Is he okay? And I went up to him. I'm like, sir, are you okay? You see what I'm saying? Is everything okay? He's like, leave me alone. I'm fine. Leave me alone. And he's like really mad. And so that Saturday, March 20th, 2006. So it's the anniversary of a few days ago. It's 13 years ago. I'm there, and I did comedy that night. And it took about 15 minutes. It went okay. And about halfway into my set, so about 7 or 8 minutes into it, I look at the audience and I see him. And pause and look at him. And he's laughing so hard his face is turning red. And I had a light bulb that just went off in my head. Because this man, to me, represents our community. In the sense that we've gone through a lot of stress, a lot of sadness, and a lot of anxiety for all these different reasons. Whether it's family life, whether it's politics, whether it's jobs and economics and this and that. And I wanted to be a part of a movement that brought back a sense of joy, even for a few minutes, and celebrated who we are. So many people are there to tear people down, and I wanted to build people up. And to be honest, it was the first time in my life that I did something that felt like actually mattered. And I've read all these stories, I've read all these reports, and I've worked for all these news organizations. But I was reading the same dumb things that every other news outlet was saying, like, this Republican said this Democrat said this, and this person yelled at this, and this person said this. And it was just noise. But in that moment, just making this guy who was mad this whole time laugh for even a few minutes really felt like something I did matter. And I just gravitated towards that. And as soon as I got off stage, people are reaching out to me like, hey, how do I contact your agent? Who's your agent? And I'm like, here's my Gmail address. You just book me from there. And it kind of just snowballed. And so then what happened was, with any art, it's hard to find your own voice. You know, when I first started doing comedy, I would do a lot of jokes that I thought people wanted to hear. I'd say, my parents are so backwards, my parents are dumb, or this or that. But I'm like, no, my parents have master's degrees. My mother's a teacher. My dad's a successful businessman. Like, these aren't, like, dumb people. Why am I making them sound so dumb? And I would make jokes about, 9/11 or, as in, like, racial profiling or being stuck at the airport and airport security. But I'm like, I don't have any problem flying to the airport. I go through just fine. Like, why am I talking about that? And then what was happening was, after the show, I would always tell people about all my travel stories, all these silly things that I got into as I traveled, or even my upbringing as a kid. And I was making people laugh about that. And they're like, bro, why don't you just talk about that on stage? Why are you doing these dumb jokes about 9/11 or your parents or this or that? Like, just talk about your life. And so that's what I started doing. People are like, how do you come up with material? I'm just like, I just live life. And I always tell people, like, when it comes to, like, writing a good joke, how do you write a joke? It comes from a place of truth. It comes from a place of experience. Write about the things you're passionate about. If you really like cereal, you can talk about cereal. If you really like, if you're really frustrated with politics and you want to talk about that. Write about the things that are important to you. For me, the things that are important are people. My family, my friends, and the people I meet. So that's my material. That's how we determine these are the things that I want to talk about. And what's really cool is, in comedy, there's no rules. It's not like other jobs where you become a doctor, you go to university, then you go to medical school, then you take this exam, and then you're a doctor, right? And you're a lawyer, go to university, go to law school, take an exam, and then you're a lawyer, right? But in comedy, there's no school for it. There's no this or that. Some people just get on stage and do that. Some people do YouTube and become comedians or Instagram or this or that. So it's really cool that it's the most open playing field, and anybody can be one. Even if you just do it as a hobby, there's opportunities. I've been rambling for like 2 hours. I don't know if you guys have any comments or questions, anything else we can talk about. Yes. How do I handle hecklers? You always have hecklers, right? From time to time, but I don't like to put people down because sometimes hecklers can like help you laugh and keep you move on. Sometimes it can be really disruptive and angry. I had this one situation. I was on stage and I was telling a bunch of jokes, and I started making fun of Donald Trump, made some jokes about George Bush and Sarah Palin and all these right-wing Republicans, and I forgot that I was at a comedy club in Houston, Texas. And so I didn't know what to do. And after the show, these two guys came up to me. And they were 2 U.S. soldiers that spent 5 years in Iraq. They came up to me and they're like, Hey! You that comedian that just went up there? And I'm freaking out. I'm like, yeah. They're like, hey, man! You're pretty funny! But, good thing you're Mexican. And I was like, gracias, señor. So that happens from time to time. But I try not to let that distract, because if I start engaging a heckler, then somebody else will start yelling something. Somebody else will start yelling something. Or if I say something and make fun of the audience and he gets upset, the whole audience is going to be like, hey man, what'd you do that for? So I usually just try to ignore it. If it's something playful, then I might kind of play with it. But I try not to let that distract.
Question. Okay, so you talk about jokes being born out of your own story.
Yes.
But is there like maybe a methodology or your own style of how you turn things into a joke?
Interesting. That's a good question. If it doesn't make me laugh, then I probably won't do it. Right? There's some things that I know will get a laugh, but I just don't care. Right? And I just don't. So I'm not going to write material about that. So it has to be true to me. I ask myself when I'm on stage, I'm like, did I actually talk about that? Did I actually do that? And so my life, my travels, I just get into the most ridiculous situations, most weird, strange things happen. So my life is just is that material. So there's not really like a strict methodology. It's just stuff that makes me laugh. Lots of things make me laugh. You know, silly things, serious things. Sometimes it's very depressing things that make me laugh. Very stressful things. Sometimes it's very happy things. And so, to me, I just have to always speak the truth. Everything I told you today is all true. These are all true stories. My friend did capture my dad and hit him with a stick, thinking he was shaitan. That's my life. So I think for me, that's what it is. One thing I don't do, and I'm not criticizing other comedians, I don't really like to make fun of people. If I do it in a playful way because I find it affectionate. Like earlier, so you're like, woo, that was funny. We were joking. I wasn't thinking he was a bad person and putting him down. But there is one rule in comedy. The reason I bring that up, there's a rule in comedy that a lot of comedians tell you is punch up, but don't punch down. What they mean by that is punch up as in make fun of people above you, politicians, the elite, celebrities. Make fun of them all day, every day. But don't make fun of people below you. The handicapped, people that might be a lower economic class than you, LGBT people that have been discriminated against. Don't punch down. So I go by that rule as well. So I'm not going to mock somebody that's going through a tragedy or a struggle, or someone's been discriminated against, or things like that. This is no fun. I don't find those things fun. Especially in this day and age. So I do avoid that. That's probably the only rule I do follow. I always want to write from a place of love, not from a place of wanting to put people down. Is usually how I approach things. But I got to make sure that what I say is authentic. That's my rule. Is make sure that I ask myself, would I really say that? Do I really care about that? Okay. Yes.
Do you have any comedians that you compare yourself to as a style of doing comedy?
It's a good question. I don't know if I compare myself because I'm not I'm kind of like this guy. I just love storytellers, right? And even though I don't even call myself a comedian, I'm more of a storyteller. So as you notice that my jokes aren't really joke. It's like stories and this and that. It's hard for me to admit it, but when I was a little kid, my favorite comedian was Bill Cosby. And obviously he's a terrible human being. He's a piece of trash, right? And I hope he rots in prison. And that was very hard for me because he was a big influence on me growing up. But obviously he did these terrible things, and I had to he obviously was convicted of raping multiple people, and he's a terrible person. And I had to, he was like my comedy dad almost. And I had to disassociate that and cut myself off. I don't care what kind of influence he was, he's a terrible person. But I just always like comedians that are good storytellers. Right? Kevin Hart's a good one. Russell Peters is a good storyteller. I just like stories. I like hearing about people's experiences. But even that, I don't feel like I compare myself to them. I just like stories. In my family, we're all storytellers. My grandmother has incredible stories about her life in India before independence. She was an activist that marched with Gandhi and other people. And so she would tell me stories about what that was like pushing for independence against the British. And then my mom and dad have incredible stories coming from India with very little money, coming all to America. And then even me growing up, I grew up in an all-white town, and nobody really knew who I was or what my experiences were. Everybody would ask about my life and my culture, but then they were asking me about other stuff, Aman, what did Jay-Z mean when he said this? What did Tupac mean when he said that? And so I found myself constantly explaining not only my story, but other people's stories as well. And so I look back on that and I was like, wow, I was destined to do this. Like, it kind of put me on this path, and I was prepared to be that storyteller. But it's hard for me to compare because I try to see like differences in everybody. So, yes.
So, in the topic of confidence, I have two questions. First question is like, how did you find the confidence in yourself to tell yourself like, yeah, I'm a funny person that people are willing to pay to see me? Second question
Yeah,
is,
I'm awesome.
Yeah, I'm awesome. Second question is, how did you cope with the fact that like, you're losing your hair?
Are you going there too, bro?
Yeah.
You gotta tighten up on the sides. I'll answer the first question. That's a very good question, actually. It's not that I see myself as, yeah, I'm funny and I can do this. But I think a challenge for any art, or even any industry, you only feel like you're as good. Like, when I first was an artist, I only felt like I was as good as my last show. So if I did a good show, I'm like, yo, I'm dope, I'm awesome, I'm killing it. But if I have a bad show, I'm like, I suck, I'm a failure, what am I doing? And then you feel like when you're studying for an exam, I'm smart, I'm the man. You fail, I'm like, ugh, I suck, I should go change my major or something. So it's very hard to get through that cycle. Or what happens is, you're like, but I've been doing this for 5 years, that guy's only been doing it for 2, how come he's been able to get success and not me? Like, that guy sucks and I'm good. Like, you keep going through these things, right? But I realized something very early on. I was fortunate early on to realize this. That I looked at the careers of, do you guys know Chris Rock?
Yeah.
And Eddie Murphy?
Yeah.
So 2 comedians, they're about the same age. Eddie Murphy was 19 years old when he first taped his first comedy special. He did a show at Madison Square Garden, one of the most legendary stand-up specials. 19 years old, Madison Square Garden, New York, 20,000 people. Chris Rock was 36 when he did his special. That doesn't mean that Eddie Murphy was funnier, and that's why it happened for him. Chris Rock wasn't as funny, and that's why it happened later for him. It was the fact that God willed this person to succeed at this time, and this person to succeed at another time. Not that one is funnier than the other. And I realized that your talent and your hard work can only take you so far. It is Allah's will that determines this is your time. And this works in any industry, right? You can work hard and start a business, and you see some tech companies and startups blow up overnight. You see some companies take 20 years, right? Because of Allah's will. And so I realized that the only thing I can control, I can't control the outcome, the results, but I can control the effort. I can control the passion, the hard work I put into it. So I said to myself, let me just make sure I'm having fun. And I really love what I'm doing. And just focus on that. Let's not look at page views, social media likes, video views, all that stuff. Let me just focus on having fun. And so I always have this attitude now. I'll have a video that'll get a million views. And then I'll have one that'll get like 500 views. But the 500 view video, I'm like, I had a blast doing that. That was so much fun. We had some really fun writers and fun directors and this and that. So it almost doesn't matter. And when I stop focusing on metrics, money, degrees, just material things to validate myself, when I stopped focusing on all those things, that's when all the success started coming in. When I stopped looking at page views and social media likes and this and that, that's when they all started growing and increasing because I was having fun. And so that's how I overcame that. I think in any field, even if you're a lawyer, a writer, a bookkeeper, a doctor, you should have passion, you should have love. And if you don't, work on that. Try to explore, why did I do this and what makes me happy. I'm not saying you should quit your job and do whatever, but you should do something that fulfills you. The ball. I don't know why I'm answering this. So for me, I never really had an issue, right? I know people that are always like wearing hats and like golf hats. I have a cousin, he wears a golf hat like every day. He like shows up to Jumma like wearing a hat. I'm like, dude, take it off, it's fine. I don't really care because I can't control it. Like if I'm not smart, somebody could be like, ha, you're dumb, you don't study in school. But baldness, it's like, ha, you have a genetic chromosome that's carried on your mother's side of the body. Like, that doesn't, like, I didn't do anything. So I just stopped caring. I'm like, just taking it all off. And now I got a chrome dome. Put a little cocoa butter, a little lotion. That's that. So I don't care. Yes.
How do you deal with awkward, like, I'm sure maybe you've gone through this your first few stage times. So how do you deal with awkward silences when nobody laughs at your jokes? Because it happens a lot to us. So.
It can happen in any field, whether it's poetry, music, it can be a little awkward. I just make sure I'm having fun. And I've had shows where people are just staring. And I'm like, I feel bad for y'all. I'm having fun up here. And then the audience is like, oh, that guy's really like having fun. And then they come around. And the thing is, like, I've had bad shows. You know, I've had good shows, I've had bad shows. And I'll tell you some stories about some bad shows in a minute. But I've had bad shows, but I don't know about you, I'm sure you've had a bad event, but you get excited, you're like, okay, that didn't work, but I can't wait to try again. I can't wait to, because you have fun doing it. You have love and passion, right? And it was like, I can't wait to get back on the stage, try it again, and then try this out, and fix this, and fix that. Because it's a constant process. Like, nobody's naturally a comedian, right? Because like any field, you have to work at it. It's like working out. The more you do it, the stronger you get at it. I've been doing this for 13 years now. And so it's because of love and passion and work and craft. And the most talented artists throughout the world, for example, the best painters, Da Vinci, Donatello, all these guys, they were good painters not because it was God-gifted talent, because they painted a lot. And the best athletes are the best athletes in the world, Messi, Ronaldinho, Ronaldo, because they play a lot, they practice, right? And so that's how you get good at it. So those awkward moments, I just make sure that I'm having fun.
Do you pivot when you, for example, like you recognize the audience isn't concentrating or something? I mean, is there a method that you use to pivot?
I mean, yeah. I always want to play to the crowd. It's all talk to the crowd. And I'm like, all right, I write my material in the sense that it's not so much joke. It's like, let me at least tell a good story, right? So it's like, even if you weren't laughing, you still can appreciate stories. So I do that, so I don't have to worry about this. I kind of like the silence. I'll tell a story that's like 5 minutes long, just like one joke at the end. Because I'm trying to like tell a story.
When it comes to storytelling,
yes,
it's actually really hard. I think it's purely an art. Is there a very quickly, is there a thought process that you go through
absolutely.
when you're creating a story?
So the challenge in storytelling is you're not just telling a story, you're performing. Some people have great stories when you write them, but you can't just go on stage and read it. You have to perform a story. And so a good story is one where you want the audience to close your eyes and imagine that they're going through it too. Right? And storytelling works for any field. You know, if you're a lawyer, you're telling the judge a story of why your client should get support. Right? If you work at a business, you're trying to tell a story about why people should buy your products. If you're a doctor, you're telling a story about why someone should get the surgery. In advertising, you're trying to tell a story of why to buy the product. So storytelling works in any field. And what I do in storytelling is I want the audience to close their eyes and imagine things. So I tell you little details. Like when I was telling you the story about hunting the lamb, I said there I was with my phone in one hand and trying to Google how to halal slaughter an animal. Even little details like that. Because you want people to realize like how ridiculous, the situation is. And so I do a lot of storytelling shows where I call them story slams, where people get on stage and they battle and try to tell the best story. So the audience votes on the best storyteller. So I work with people and say, okay, that's a great story, but let's add some more details. So if you say that you were scared, show me that you were scared. Were you shivering? Were you freaked out? Like, what was going on in your mind? Because you want to recreate. You want the audience to be you in the moment. So little details, even like describing the room you were in, describing how you made you feel. You can say things like, I was scared. You say, I was freaking out. I thought zombies were going to eat me, and I thought I was going to get eaten alive. That tells you more. It shows you that you're scared. So always show and not tell. And that's even good writing as well. Good writing has good detail that expresses those emotions. So I do that a lot in stories. And it takes practice, right? I'll tell a story, and it'll be like 10 minutes long, and I'll notice that hey, it's a little long, it's dragging. The audience really responds to this part of the story, not that part. Let me just cut that part out. So a lot of it is just constantly like practicing and honing and this and that. But storytelling in every field in life. You gotta convince your mom of why you should eat this for dinner, or convince your husband why you should do this or do that. So it works in any field.
Have you come across any storytellers where they have to tell the story with very limited
Very limited what?
vocabulary? So, for example, like an audience that may have low fluency in English, for example,
Sure.
but you still have to convey that story.
Actually happened to me once. I was doing some shows in Palestine, and we were in Ramallah, and I was touring with this music group. And the music group performed, and everyone's like laughing and having a good time. So I get on stage, and right when I get on stage, the stage manager is like, "Okay, Aman, this is Abdullah. He's going to translate for you." What? Again, the audience only speaks Arabic. Do you know Arabic? I was like, no. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, oh, don't worry, I'll be fine. I'm like, no, because music, you may not know the lyrics, but you can clap, get down to the beat, and feel the rhythm. But comedy and storytelling, so much of it is your own word choice, your delivery, your this, your that. And not only that, like, for me when I perform, I feed off the energy. So if you guys are having a good time, I'm having a good time. And I'm a reflection of you guys. So I sponge people in, and so if you think I'm funny, it's because you guys are funny and having a good time. If the crowd's uptight, I'm probably going to be lame. So I feed off that. So it was really weird for me, like, how do I do that? So it was totally weird because Abdullah would get on stage. I'll tell like a 5-minute story. And audiences dead stares at me. And so then Abdullah would come out, and I would just hope that he would get that whole translation. And then he would translate, he would tell the story, and then the audience would say, yay! I'm like, okay, cool. And then I would go to the next one. So it's definitely happened before. I think that's why like I speak very animated, and so I use my hands, I talk a lot, and I use different cadences and voices, pitches, and things like that, so that some of those things you don't have to know every single word that I'm saying. You can at least like feel it. I think that's also the good story. Is you want people to live and feel the story that you're telling. Yes. Yes.
Musicians have films.
Did my mom tell you to say that? What are my plans? I think it's going to evolve because I started off doing comedy, and now I'm kind of evolved into storytelling, and now it's opened up a lot of opportunities. I think we were talking at the last event a couple of days ago. I had this opportunity with Netflix, and so I have a film with Netflix coming out. Thank you. Comes out in January of next year. So I've been busy working on that. And so it's an exciting time to work in this industry because... No, it's a documentary. It's a true story about... it's a documentary, and it's about a Muslim casket maker. He makes coffins. And he lives in New Jersey. And this guy got so fed up with street violence, he wanted to do something about it. And so he's pulling young kids out the streets. He makes them wash bodies, build coffins, meet mothers that have lost loved ones to gun violence. So through the lens of death, he's teaching these kids that their own lives are worth living. So our film is following a 12-year-old and a 17-year-old learning how to become men. So we've been filming with them now for about 3 years about this, and then kind of learning about their relationship. So yeah, the documentary comes out January of next year. So yeah, it's opened up a lot of new opportunities. And I don't really like calling myself a comedian anymore because I kind of feel like it's limiting because sometimes in life I like telling stories that are not always funny, but they're interesting and true. And I've been on that path, and it's really cool because in Hollywood right now, or even worldwide, there is a hunger and there's an interest in stories from people of different backgrounds, right? And I was saying to someone earlier, like, look at movies like Black Panther, a movie with an all-black cast, all-black director and staff, about a fictional African nation, a Marvel movie that's not tied to Captain America, Spider-Man, or X-Men, made more than $1 billion. The box office, Crazy Rich Asians, another all Asian cast, Asian director, made $1 billion as well. And so there's a lot of interest from Hollywood because they realize that, hey, we're run by a bunch of old white guys. We need to not only get diversity in front of the camera, but we need it behind the camera too. And so it's a really exciting time right now to create content. There's all these platforms, Netflix, Hulu, YouTube, Facebook Watch, all these places where people need content. People constantly watch things. And so with that comes tremendous opportunities. And so that's one thing I like to do is I'm still figuring out this industry. I'm still trying to navigate through all this, but I like doing events like this and other events because I always ask myself, how can I help other people figure this out? Because somebody taught me. People open the door for me, so I'm always like, what opportunities can I create for people to help them get their start? Because some people have these brilliant ideas, but they're like, where do I even begin? I have this script, I have this show I want to do, I have this film idea, but they're like, where do I start? And so I may not have all the answers, but I'm like, hey, maybe you could try this, or I can connect you with this person. So I really like being that person as well. Because I'm still figuring out this film career and this and that. But I like being that person that gives back, that helps the next generation and the younger people, or even people my age, figure this out as well. Anybody else? The name of the documentary is called Born to Die. Yeah. And it's, I wouldn't say it's a depressing film. It's definitely a spiritual film. And I just want to tell stories like this because, okay, I want to tell a story about, this guy's Muslim, but I want to tell a story about Muslims that had nothing to do with terrorism. That had nothing to do with hate crimes or anything like that. Those are narratives, this happens around the world, but I want to tell a story about a guy that just cared about kids in the neighborhood and wanted to make a difference. He's not here to preach to these kids or convert them to Islam. One of the kids he's teaching is not even Muslim. But for him, it's not about converting or this or that or making them read Quran. He just wants to teach these kids how to be men. It's the worldwide problem with, this lack of mentors in our community, or worldwide community, I should say. So I just wanted to focus on that. And so I like telling stories about people, humans, that just happen to be Muslim. So this isn't a Muslim film or a Muslim story or this or that. This is just an incredible man that just happens to be Muslim. So yeah.
Is there a platform that we can follow to kind of follow the community of storytellers? Is there any online?
I mean, there's so many. There's Instagram. There's YouTube. There's incredible stuff happening on both those platforms. Netflix, Hulu. There's a live storytelling show called The Moth on YouTube, and there's a podcast of it. I've been on it a couple times. Basically, people just get on stage and tell stories. And it's a lot of fun. And they tape it in New York, and they tape it all over the world now. And you never know who's going to be on stage. Like, before I got here, I did a show in New York, and I got on stage, and the lineup that night was crazy. It was myself, Bill Clinton, Eminem, who else was on it? What's his face? Kendrick Lamar, and a couple other local chefs and other people. You just never know who's going to show up and tell stories about their lives or about their careers, or just silly shenanigans that they get into. So that's a good one.
The Moth?
The Moth, yeah. It's a live storytelling show where people get on stage and tell stories. Do you remember the show Blue's Clues? Did you guys get that cartoon for kids?
Oh.
Go on YouTube and type The Moth Blue's Clues. The guy who was on Blue's Clues tells a crazy story about how insane it was working on that show, how just messed up it was. That's really funny. If you remember that from your childhood. It was about this little guy, this guy's inside of a house with a blue dog, and they play games with little kids. Blue's Clues was one of my favorite.
The Moth, 71,000 subscribers.
Yes. Any other questions? Cool. Well, thank y'all. I'm here for the next. I'm here to chill. If you guys want to hang out or talk or anything like that. But no more questions. Nobody else wants to. Anybody working on any projects or anything cool or?
So you mentioned about unity through laughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I run an interfaith non-profit.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so we just hosted a pastor and an imam from Bethel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So he came into Malaysia.
I was just in Bethlehem about a week ago, going through Palestine, so I was in Bethlehem.
So it's about unity, it's about different faith, understanding each other. So if you were to go out and this was comparative religion, it's just boring. No one really wants to go into that again.
Sure.
How do we use humor to unite people?
Yeah. So I actually, I'm a part of a comedy tour. It's myself, a rabbi, and a priest. We get on stage and tell stories. We're not here to argue or debate. We're just, because laughter is universal. And with all these religions, we're proud of who we are, but there are so much more similarities than differences, right? And so we like to focus on the things that make us all beautiful. And celebrate music. Not to divide or argue or debate, but humor is a great way to do that. Through comedy, we're not here to debate or mock or anything like that, but sometimes we just need to hang out. And even as simple as like eating together. I always tell people I did this project 30 months, 30 days, but I was like, you know what? I think non-Muslims should come visit mosques. I think Muslims should go visit churches, and go to temples, and go to synagogues. I think there's just so much we can learn from one another. Just to experience it. It doesn't affect your Islam, it doesn't affect your Christianity by visiting somebody. You should strengthen it and appreciate who you are and the people around you. And I was very fortunate when I was a little kid. My mom and dad would do that. They would take us to church just to see what it was about. Not to convert us or this or that. They're like, we live in this community, and our friends down the road are very passionate. Let's see what they do. And they would come to our mosque. They would come to our Ramadan dinners. And sometimes they would try fasting with us, just to develop appreciation. It wasn't about hoping that they might convert or this or that, but it was to develop respect and develop love and support. So I think it's just experiencing. So do things like, whether it's comedy or humor, but let people experience other things. Tell Muslims go to church. Just go to service, just sit. You don't have to. If you don't feel comfortable praying, you don't have to do that, but just sit and listen and appreciate what they do. And then tell non-Muslims to come to the mosque on Friday. They may not be able to find any parking, but tell them to come. So I think there's a lot of beauty in appreciating other people's experiences. Yeah. It's on YouTube. There might be a few clips, but a lot of it's live as well. We don't have anything, we just tour together. What was it? Yeah, she did have it. It's been a while, but that's a fun one. Bob Alper is the rabbi's name. He's the one that organized it. Great guy, really, really fun dude. He's a practicing rabbi, has a synagogue, performs all over, does sermons. And then Reverend Susan Sparks, she's a priest in New York City. So yeah, we're on the road out of time doing shows. Bob Alper. Yes.
Yeah, you do that.
I do, but I just haven't been very active on it lately because I've been busy with this film. But you can type my name in and find stuff. Most of my content you can find on Facebook. It's probably where I'm the most active. You just type my name in on the link. So I'm posting stuff like all the time. Yes.
How does the comedy community works in New York City? Is there people go to a comedy club once a week and each one of the comedy gets get a chance to go on stage and tell jokes and things like that?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
The comedy community, we're all closely knit family. So we hang out together, we write jokes together, especially within the Muslim comedy community. We're all really good friends. We all kind of support each other, root for each other. Even with the Muslim artists community, we know each other. That's a worldwide thing. It's not just New York. If I'm in LA, I stay at this guy's house. If he's in New York, he comes stay at my place. I'll text a friend, hey, I'm thinking about this joke. What do you think? I'm gonna try this, or so I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Why don't you add that line to it? So it's very, very friendly, especially with the Muslim community. Like for example, Dave Chappelle is one of the greatest comedians, and he likes to hang out only with the Muslim comedians because he can just kind of get away from everybody. He drops a lot of wisdom, and none of us are fanboys that are trying to videotape him or ask for his autograph. He can just be himself. And so it's great to be fortunate to have so many Muslim artists even all over the world. Literally every country I travel to, every state in America I go to, is somebody I can call up and just hang out with. So that's really cool that I have these friends for life by doing what we did.
Have you seen any of the comedy shows here?
I haven't had a chance to on this trip. But the comedy seems very vibrant. I think it's really exciting.
One thing I've noticed in Malaysia, comedy speaks to the people.
Yeah.
And I think it's because there's a lot of indirectness in it, where you can say things without the risk of offending someone.
Yeah.
It's all on the radio and stuff, and I think in a lot of our comedy, I don't know if you want to share your thoughts on this. It's a lot of acting and a lot of exaggeration and drama. But it's the comedy community, for those who are not aware of, is slowly growing here. Mainly managed by maybe Azra, maybe you know LOL events. Yes. These are the guys that bring Kevin Hart here and all that. But I feel like there's just so much potential because humor is very much in our culture. It's how we deal with things. How would you suggest for us to bring the community together? Because obviously Malaysia we're, I think in the arts and culture we're still growing. And I think comedy is just something that's in the family, but it's not a thing.
Sure.
So how would you suggest for us to start building that, just so that we can train ourselves on a couple of things? Like, one, I think it's really healthy not to feel offended with everything. I think that's a lot of why we break as a society, because we get offended really fast. And second, just the skill of storytelling. So how do you suggest that we just start that community?
Sure. I mean, comedy is one of the oldest art forms. This goes all the way back to the Greeks and thousands of years ago. They would use comedy at the time to mock politicians and silliness that was happening. And comedy, it's a very, very democratic art form. It can be a platform for people going through oppression to speak out, and hold truth to power. So in the 1950s and the 1960s, you saw a lot of Jewish people get on stage and talk about their struggles. In the 70s and 80s and 90s, you saw a lot of Black Americans get on stage and talk about their struggles. And they're still doing it. And now, you're seeing people from different communities. You're seeing Muslim Americans, you're seeing Indian Americans, you're seeing South Asians and Chinese and Japanese and Malaysians getting on stage and talking about their issues, right? And I think that's a beautiful thing. There's a saying, there's a Sufi saying, and the translation, it's hard to translate, but basically says, you can only love as much as you've suffered. Your heart is able to love based on the challenges and adversity that it faces. And Malaysians have some of the biggest hearts in the world because of the challenges that they've had to overcome and this and that. And so, everybody does comedy differently. I don't think you should do something based on what the Americans do. You should do something that's very uniquely Malaysian. Just like the river flows over rocks, comedy in Malaysia should not be, oh, well, let's just do what America's doing, or this or that. You can take a few things here and there and be inspired, this and that. So I think you should just write what's true to you. If people don't want to make fun of people, you don't have to. You can be silly and talk about it your own way, your own experiences, and your own things. You can make fun of yourself. You know, you just have to be true to you. And so, yeah, my advice is just to focus on the things universal, right? you don't have to mock people, but each and every one of us goes through similar things. We're all worried about what's happening in our future, what's happening in our country with our politicians, what's happening with education. Why isn't this girl returning my text messages? Okay, that's just me. We focus on the things, we should focus on the things that are universal to all of us. So whether you're Malaysian or Indian or Chinese or Muslim, Christian, Sikh, Hindu, Buddhist, atheist, whatever, we are all human beings at the end of the day. And so that's why with my comedy, I talk about things that are unique to my own experiences, but many people can relate. Right? We have non-Muslims here, and they're like, yeah, they're laughing too. Because they can see the beauty in it, because maybe it relates to their own experiences. Well, maybe they're less appreciated. That's not so. So I think comedy should make people laugh, but it should make people feel included. Right? And so it's not meant to alienate people, or hate people, or provoke them, or push them away. It's meant from a place of love to bring people together. Anybody else? Alright, I bet this kid is asleep, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you guys again. And round of applause for people.